A Thai opposition party is facing the axe for backing the botched election bid by a princess. What does it mean for democracy as Thailand prepares for its first vote since the military took power 5 years ago? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the programme. I'm Martine Dennis. Thailand's Election Commission has recommended the dissolution of the party that chose a princess to be its candidate for Prime Minister. The March 24th general election in this constitutional monarchy will be the first since a military coup in 2014. We'll be discussing the impact of the looming ban on the Thai Raksa Chart party with our guests in just a moment. First, this report from our correspondent Wayne Hay in Bangkok.
2 weeks ago, the Thai Raksa Chart party entered the political spotlight. As they launched their election campaign, the leaders talked about the need for Thailand to innovate. But the candidate chosen to stand as Prime Minister proved to be an innovation too far in a country where the monarchy is regarded as above politics. Princess Ubolratana was ruled ineligible after the palace said her nomination was in violation of royal tradition and culture and highly inappropriate. After a complaint from an independent constitution monitoring organisation, the Election Commission has recommended that the court dissolve the party. If the court agrees, it would be the third dissolution of a political party backed by former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra, who lives in exile after his overthrow in the 2006 military coup. Thaksin Shinawatra has spent his political career fighting the establishment, and on Friday Thais thought he had staged a major coup himself by having a member of the royal family fronting the campaign for one of his parties. But it appears to have been a major miscalculation. Dissolution would also mean the members of the party's executive committee would be banned from politics for a minimum of 10 years. Last week, the party's advisor and a long-time Thaksin ally told Al Jazeera about his concerns that the campaign and next month's election won't be free and fair.
It is designed in the first place so that the junta will be able to extend its power.
Thailand's military leaders have formed the government since the latest coup in 2014 removed Thaksin's main party, Pheu Thai. It's still able to take part in next month's vote. The decision by the Election Commission to ban the Thai Raksa Chart party came the day after a TV station owned by the Shinawatras was ordered off the air for 15 days. The government's national broadcasting body said Voice TV was showing provocative content that caused confusion and social division.
The fact that the punishment is dealt out at this time, right about when we're heading towards a potential return to democracy, is highly inappropriate.
There are few guarantees in Thai politics, but it's likely there'll be more volatility before Thailand's first general election in almost 5 years, due on March 24th. Wayne Hay, Al Jazeera, Bangkok.
So let's have a closer look at where Thailand stands today. The current government came to power in 2014 in the 12th military coup since 1932. The head of the military council, Prayuth Chan-ocha, promised new elections within months of taking over, but that's turned into almost 5 years. Now, there's a new constitution in place which many people actually think preserves the power of the military. It's thought that the only real challenge comes from parties that are aligned to Thaksin Shinawatra, like the Thai Raksa Chart party, which may now be out of the contest. Right, let's introduce our guests now. We've got two guests coming from the capital, Bangkok, by Skype. We have Kreng Sak Chaiwarongak. He is an academic and a politician and a former executive board member for the Thailand Democrat Party in Khon Kaen in northeastern Thailand via Skype. We've got David Streckfuss, who is an historian and an independent scholar. He's also In Bangkok, we have Sean Boonprakong, who's a former National Security Advisor to the Yingluck government. Welcome to you all. Sean, let me start with you. It seems to have been a massive gamble then for this party to have chosen the princess to front their bid for the elections. How big of a disruptor was this decision to go with the princess?
Actually, it depends on whose points of view you're looking at. From those who believe in democracy, I believe that they are ecstatic with this choice. She has resigned herself from the monarchical system, and she decided to play. And in good faith, everybody believed that of all the candidates, she's capable of leading Thai Raksa Chart to victory in combination with Pheu Thai and our possible alliance who believe in democracy.
Was it really? Sorry, Sean, was it really a strategic decision taken with a view of incorporating the monarchy in Thai politics? Everybody knows that it's illegal, it's unconstitutional. The royal family are supposed to stay out of politics, and you can't even use their images in campaigning. So it was designed to fail.
But that's the final point that I'm trying to point out before, that she resigned from the monarchy. That's her assumption. And it was done in good faith. It may have been risky to those who disagree, those who believe in tradition and less open-minded about what Thailand faces in the future. Now, that's also an accepted view by those who in fact associated with the junta or those elite that are behind this move to more or less dissolve the Thai Raksa Chart party. Now, that's understood.
Right. And David, what do you think the intention behind the nomination of the princess actually was? And what could have occurred if indeed it had succeeded? I mean, there could have been an interesting fusion, couldn't there, in terms of interest in Thai politics?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that we know her motivations, other than that she's trying to create a role for herself outside at least official royal familydom. So I think she would have been really interesting, because there's been a long feeling of kind of questioning about the monarchy, as the palace had seemed to be on the side of the yellow shirts or their opponents back in 5 to 10 years ago. So if her nomination had gone through, it would have been, I mean, it's not interesting only that she wanted to become a politician, but she wanted to become a politician with a very grassroots party. And that would have perhaps been a bridge between the grassroots and the monarchy in a way that's never been seen before.
Right. And Kreensak, the fact now that the party that chose to take this rather risky gamble, the Thai Raksa Chart party, now faces the distinct possibility of being dissolved, of being shut down. I mean, that impacts upon the general democratic landscape of the country and makes it obviously much less of a choice, much less of a pluralistic situation for voters come March.
Thai Raksa Chart is a subsidiary party to the Pheu Thai party in the same cluster on the side of Dr. Thaksin, the former Prime Minister. Therefore, the substantiveness of the number of seats would be not as many as if it being dissolved on the Pheu Thai, the main party. But definitely, every party seats counts in this election. It's total understandable how Dr. Thaksin would like to win this election by backing a number of parties in the same cluster well planned to win the election in the largest number possible to allow it to form a government.
Right. So are you saying, Kreensak, that if the Thai Raksa Chart party is dissolved, it doesn't really have a massive impact upon the democratic offering for the people of Thailand? Is that what you're saying?
it will not have a massive impact in terms of seats that Dr. Thaksin's cluster of parties will gain, but it will have an impact definitely on the less likely chance for Pheu Thai clusters among all the parties combined to have the large majority of the two houses combined, 376. That means the majority of the lower house of 500 plus the upper house of senators of 200 seats that will require total together 376. And this will be impossible for Pheu Thai to come up with the number of seats.
Right.
It's already stand a good chance. If Thai Raksa Chart came in, it will be a better chance. But now going to be dissolved likely, it's going that way,
right,
then it will be less chance for sure.
All right. Sean, coming to you now, when looking at Thai politics, it's often described as being pretty much bipolar in terms of there being the military and Prayuth on the one hand, aligned perhaps with the conservative values of the country, the elite and indeed the monarchy. And on the other hand, Thaksin and his affiliates, who are much more populist and derive a huge amount of popularity from the rural communities in Thailand. Is that the best way of looking at Thai politics today as you get ready for an election next month?
It's more or less based upon that. You have to understand that the junta, more or less for the past 5 years, have not improved the country economically. And because of that, there are enthusiasm about this upcoming election. And the system is designed, is rigged against Pheu Thai, Thai Raksa Chart, and other alliance. Essentially, it's like you have a party where the military support Palang Pracharat has an additional 250 senator to back you. That's more than half the vote, which means that the military could hardly lose. It's like giving a 4-goal lead before the football match, and then you go on to play, and this is a fair play. And therefore, the political divide between the province and Bangkok and the elites, it's more or less are still there. That has not changed substantially. Thai Raksa Chart is a big equation where the main charter was designed to bust up more or less Pheu Thai strength.
Right.
But outside, democracy side, decided by creating Thai Raksa Chart, which will project to win roughly between 2 to 3 million votes. It could add a mixture of 3 to 60 votes. So is by election commission and the Constitutional Court sure to dissolve this? It would cut down democracy side by a huge amount of numbers.
Right. David, when Prayuth and his colleagues came to power in 2014, they made promises. They made promises of maintaining stability, of getting rid of corruption, and indeed, rather impossibly, perhaps restoring happiness to Thailand. I mean, what they have done, I mean, they've fulfilled this promise in part. There has been stability in Thailand since 2014. Yes, Sean's pointed out that the economy is maybe underperformed, but that is a regional issue as well. It's not specific to Thailand, is it? I mean, and they've also guided the country through that seismic event of losing King Bhumibol.
Well, I mean, part of the reason for part of their reasoning for taking power was so they could oversee that and make sure they got the candidate they wanted into the kingship. So, you know, does that change things a lot? I mean, I believe that dichotomy you talk about is more anti-dictatorship versus dictatorship. And it's not just Thaksin, but there's a lot of other parties. Thailand politically has taken steps backwards. Every time there's a coup, it sort of decimates a lot of the infrastructure, political infrastructure that Democrats keep trying to build up. And yet it gets knocked back down again. We kind of start off, and now we're going to have an election in which, you know, it's been rigged. It'll look free and fair on that day, but the new constitution and the stacked Senate almost ensures that the military will stay in power in some form, and there'll merely be a democratic veneer.
Right. Kreensak, let me put that to you, because, of course, you're a former MP for the Democrat Party. I mean, is that your rather gloomy outlook with regard to the exercise of democracy in Thailand when people presumably go to the polls next month? I mean, do you think it's pretty much a waste of time? The constitution already has the military firmly rooted in power, come what may.
It's better than no election. Let me say it forthrightly, that I'm for election, I'm for democracy, and therefore I like to have election as soon as we can, rather than have no election at all. But to be fair to what's happening, the rule being written up in the Constitution is clearly favoring the military side and the clusters that the military try to form to have the majority in the two houses so that they can propel back Prime Minister Prayuth once again. And therefore, without going to election, I have a good guess. Whether I like it or not, I would not say. But basically, the Prime Minister Prayuth have a good chance if election happen on the 24th of March to return to power. Because all he needs is just 200 seats from the Senate that he can appoint potentially, plus 126 seats from the 500 seats lower house. And that will give him the majority of the two houses combined.
Right.
That means you can win election with 126 out of 500 seats. And therefore, you clearly could win.
Right.
And it's not difficult for you to muscle that numbers by whatever means and ways you can, by bringing all the parties that want to be in government together, especially if my former party join in, it will be easier. If they don't join in, that will be a different story.
Right.
And now it's not clear whether my Democrat former party, and let me say it's former party.
Yes,
I'm independent
absolutely.
right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And therefore, Democrat may join, not join, depends on who is the party after election.
Right. Kreensak, thank you for that. Let me go to Sean. Sean, you all seem to be agreeing that there is a democratic deficit in the political system right now. You don't have a huge amount of optimism as to what March elections will yield. Tell me about the mood of the Thai people. It wasn't that long ago that we saw Bangkok pretty much taken hostage pretty much by the different sides, the yellow shirts, the red shirts, who basically seized control of Bangkok and put a stop to everything. Are people in Thailand prepared to take to the streets again, do you think?
I believe under this reign that will change considerably. We were told that those are the things of the past. We have accepted that there is an upcoming election, and mostly the red have come to realize that for us to take up to the street, it would be a no-win situation. And the antagonistic attitude, I believe the Bangkokians still feel strongly against the provincial. That has somewhat diluted somewhat. And there are also, you have to remember that the new crops of voters, 6 million, who a new political party, a future forward party, are making inroads. Their candidates are really attractive. Trying to predict what would happen in the future is really difficult. But Thai are mostly really, really hopeful before this Thai Raksa Chart incident. They thought that with the equation from different parties, from new blood, we could look forward. And the mood are now unknown. But I believe that no one really changed side for those who want to vote for Pheu Thai or Thai Raksa Chart. They would win substantial vote in combination with the new 6 million blood. I believe that we have a good chance to win the election, but yet not able to form the majority, to form the government.
Right.
But then, after 2 months, General Prayuth may have a hard time forming the government. and we can vote down no confidence when the budget times come, when the Senate 250 vote no longer matter.
Right, okay. David, so Sean is suggesting that, I guess in a free and fair electoral system, that those supporting the red shirts, those affiliated to Thaksin, would win hands down in Thailand. But he's suggesting that even though the constitution is weighted in favour of Prayuth and his colleagues, that there could be a parliamentary answer, a parliamentary fight back, should the red-shirted allies of Thaksin do well in the election.
Yeah, I mean, they might get 300. I think they were hoping to, cobble together 375. I think that's doubtful now. It might have been interesting had the princess stayed in. So what would happen now? Well, at least when there's elections, there's a lessening of the more restrictive laws affecting the media and affecting public debate, and so that's good. But at the same time, they're so hamstrung. The Constitution is almost impossible to amend, at least under the present rules. So I mean, there'll be some public discourse at least after an election, but this particular configuration will not reflect the people's voice. It will reflect the military still remaining or having a strong role in any future Thailand.
And Kreensak, we've seen this kind of formula in other parts of the world, which can be pretty dangerous, actually, because people, if they feel that their political will has not been reflected in elections, they can get rather angry. How do you think the people of Thailand might react if they feel this way come March in the elections?
I feel that the Thai people are more tolerant than most around the world. And for them to come out, it has to be agitated badly. Given the situation of the past conflicts in the last more than a decade, I think people have learned that it's not very useful to fight on the street. It will not bring much materialism of what they want. And therefore, the court cases are going on for those who are in the street and violate the law. And today, we just had an example of one side, the yellow shirt, being thrown in jail for what they did on the street. And I think that if that is a pattern, very few will come out in the future. And therefore, I have great doubt, unless there's some more factors being engineered or naturally agitated, it will not be likely that people will come out on the street.
And Sean, if this constitution, which is a couple of years old, if this constitution remains on the statute books in Thailand, I mean, that's pretty much the end of Thaksin's power, electoral power, if you like, in Thailand, isn't it? Do you think that Thaksin and his clique are prepared to give up on their bid to rule Thailand?
I don't believe Mr. Thaksin will give up. But I do believe this is the reason why, to affect the changes within the charter, to rewrite it, he believed that if the Princess Ubolratana joined his party, that type of change could more or less a revolution Thailand, in the sense that when he became the Prime Minister, a lot of things were happening. The what we call one-stop shop, the 30 baht program, more or less diversified funds to the provincial, and that's why he held the affection. However, at the end, the hopeful side of Thai, like Mr. Kreensak suggested, that's why we are there. We don't believe there will be a street protest. And in a way, we have hope for the future, but it will be interrupted should the Constitutional Court make the ruling to more or less dissolve Thai Raksa. But that's really not a hopeful sign for Thailand for the future either.
Sean Bumprakong, David Strekfus and Kreensak Chalumonsak. Thank you all very much indeed for having a very interesting conversation about the situation in Thailand today. And thank you, as ever, for watching the programme. You can see it again anytime you like. You can go to the website, aljazeera.com. If you want more discussion, there's always our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. And there's always the Twitter sphere as well. Our handle is @AJ Inside Story. I'm @Martine Dennis. From the whole team here in Doha, it's bye for now.